Very much. And again, welcome everyone for being here tonight. We had posted this initially to discuss the referendum, and we have some additional news on that from Mr. Stewart regarding the date.
When we had the initial referendum for the 27th, March the 27th happens to be spring break week. So Council President Marino wanted me to ask the council if it would be okay to move it to the second Tuesday in April.
It would still keep us in our time frame. I guess the question would be, is that something where we have to go back, reintroduce the resolution, go through the initial steps, or is it just voting on straightforward because we're changing the date?
Was the 27th approved at the last meeting?
It was not.
Okay, that's what I thought. The old
But
resolution was rescinded,
Right.
and as we said right now, we don't have one. So
Right.
we don't have one. So I
But
would
we
say-
will be changing the date, so do we have to go back through the way we did with the original resolution, or will we just be doing a straight majority vote at the next meeting? Okay, that's the question.
I'm sorry. It will be a material change. You will have to have unanimous consent.
Have to go back through the process again.
They can, but I think that this is an item that needs to have unanimous consent, not because is being changed on the agenda, but due to the magnitude of what it is.
Okay.
I think we need to have unanimous consent.
Now, Mr. Stewart, how would that put us in relation to making all the deadlines and being able to get everything in for this year?
Okay, let me, Leslie, are you saying that we can still have it on the agenda for Tuesday, but it will just have to be unanimous consent to have it adopted?
Correct, because it will be the first time to be considered under the new, with the new date.
Right. So we can, I mean, it's similar to what we were gonna do at the last council meeting.
Right.
We just got pushed back. But this one, if it's, has the unanimous consent to be voted on at that meeting, then it won't have an effect of just changing the date.
We shouldn't have a problem.
We should have a problem.
Okay, thank you. And the basic discussion tonight was potentially fund use from that referendum. Again, remembering that it's only a $6 million increase, and I think, Mr. Stewart, what was our estimate by the time the county gets their share, and if it passes, what would actually come to the city of Irondale?
Conservatively about $900,000.
Okay. And in light of what happened today and the announcement that was made, we are looking at apparently about a 1.4 million shortfall in revenue. Is what you finally came up with? Or?
Yes.
But for the rest of this year, what would it do to us?
With the event that's taking place today, we would probably lose an additional $900,000 to $1 million for the year. And we were already $708,000 when we created the budget. We were at a deficit when we created the budget. So $900,000 plus 708 would put us around $1.6 million.
For this year, the rest of this fiscal year. So we've got that to contend with, knowing that we were meeting tonight to try to discuss some potential uses for the additional funds that might be raised by doing the referendum if it passed. The question becomes now, does that basically change the way we look at that whole process and look at it as more of a necessity to be part of the shoring up of funding, because our general fund would not support the total amount, would it? Comfortably?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Just
What are we looking at as far as reserves? Do we have like 3 point?
Close, between 2.5 and $3 million.
Okay.
I would think that, Mr. Spivey, that we probably need to do a finance committee fairly soon and just start looking at overall budget, et cetera, where we stand year to date. We did get a printout indicating some of that. I don't believe we're seeing the impact of the ad valorem taxes from this past year yet, so there will be some additional revenue possibly in the next 30 days. Mr. Stewart?
Yes, at the end of December, we will have our tax receipts for December are due on January the 20th. All business licenses should be renewed no later than January the 31st. So by the middle of February, we would have all of the income in for January business license renewal as well as for the sales and use tax for the month of December.
Thank you.
If I may. James, looking at the calendar for February, what day do you feel comfortable getting those numbers to us? Because I want to basically call a finance meeting shortly thereafter.
We usually don't have all of that information in and have the reconciliations done within the first 2 weeks of the month. So I would say that that third month or before we have that second council meeting would be a good time to make sure that the information is in, that we've had an opportunity to go through it and analyze it and to identify some strengths and some weaknesses and some opportunities and threats that may have occurred during the first quarter. So I would say that third week would be, if you want to do it, tied into the work session that takes place before the city council meeting.
So you're saying, 1, 2, 3, you're saying, well, the 19th is President's Day.
Okay.
You talking about March?
I'm looking at February. So we would probably move that work session up anyways, I imagine?
You want to do it the second week of February?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Mr. Spivey, I'll support you on whatever you feel like would be a good date if we all can at least get a majority there, I should say.
Sure. I just want to go ahead and nail it down if I can. So you're saying that first Monday would be the 5th.
What about the Thursday of the second week?
Thursday of the second week, the 8th?
15th.
15th, sorry. I'm good with that. So,
Second Thursday,
the second Thursday, yeah.
that's the 8th,
Okay. So,
15th, third.
sorry, the way the calendar runs is a little weird. So, third Thursday, the 15th, you're good with that?
Yes. that's
Okay, cool.
Then
All
that
right.
should give you plenty of time to,
Mhm.
okay.
So we'll go ahead and we'll hold a finance meeting Thursday, February the 15th, 5:30, 6 o'clock, looks good.
That's good with me.
5:30? 5:30, okay. So February 15th at 5:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the question to the council tonight, is there any need to pursue additional discussion of other options for the funding if indeed that referendum did pass? Or are we locked in at this point because of the situation from today's announcement?
I feel that we're locked in from today's announcement. I think we need to, any shortfall would have to be funded out of the reserve.
Correct.
There's a lot of programs that I know that we would like to fund, but we're kind of taking a couple steps backwards today. So I think before we talk about any other additional monies that we want to spend on some non-budgeted things, I think we need to get through, this shortfall that was created today.
I'm actually referring more to how we would proceed as we announce the referendum if we do set the date and go forward. What would we announce as the use for those funding should it come in? Do we still look at things within this plan, considering we're going to have a shortfall, or do we need at this point to make sure we make the city whole for the end of this fiscal year? And then in the second year, if we're able to get back and overcome some of that, start looking more into this.
I think it's the most fiscally responsible thing to do is to look at the shortfall to make sure that we are whole before we start looking at funding other things. Because I'm very aware of multiple capital improvement projects that need to be done,
Yes, sir.
but unless we're going to pull from heavily, even heavier, from the reserve, then I think we have to look forward to doing those things in the future.
I think we need to pay the bills before we try to do anything different.
That's a good way to say it.
Mr. Wilson, any comments?
No.
Okay. So basically, going forward with the referendum, at least for this year, should it pass, we would be using funding from that to at least shore up our shortfall for this year, notwithstanding that something else could happen to bring in additional funds, and at that time, we could always relook and readjust.
When will we start, collecting income from, Mercedes?
It's
Well, they're
budgeted,
opening next month.
but it's already budgeted, so it's not gonna be additional.
Okay.
You should keep in mind that any proceeds from the referendum are not gonna affect this fiscal year, so just keep that in mind.
And
You're talking about next fiscal year, if this goes through, passes, and you start collecting. So you have two issues, you know, what do you do with that, assuming that passes and that comes in 2019, last couple of months of this year and next year. And then, you know, what do you do between now and October
yeah,
on the regular budget, so.
the
You got two
additional,
issues.
yeah, the additional income from the tax would be a benefit later, but we have to deal with the shortfall that we have now, because that's gonna hit us before the income will.
When does Mercedes come online?
We assume that they are actually advertising that they're please come see us at our new Irondale location, but we understand, operational in February.
February 19th.
No,
February of this year.
next month,
Next month. February, yeah.
18.
So, I haven't heard an exact date, apparently somebody in the audience thinks,
It's on the
Thursday.
commercials.
Yeah.
But,
They're shooting for a target of February, I mean,
but again, they're advertising,
Oh,
come
it's
see us,
that-
and they are advertising, come see us in Irondale.
Okay.
I think it's the second half of February, I don't know the exact date.
Okay.
And again, remember, they were given breaks on the front end, so we won't see a full revenue flow, but like James said, we have budgeted for that already in the budget, so it's already there. Unless by some whirlwind, they just have a real explosion of sales. Now, for purpose of discussion, if we are able to fund things outside of what we're doing for keeping the city whole at this point, are there areas you saw either in the summary of the comprehensive plan or in the comprehensive plan itself that seem to lend themselves better to serve the whole city? And I brought up at the last meeting, one thing that very stands out, of course, is infrastructure. And the one thing I will admit I get calls on from time to time are roads. We haven't done much in the way of pavement improvement in a period of time. So if we get funding and can move forward, again, that doesn't please everybody, because if you're in a neighborhood that doesn't get caught by the plan that the engineers developed for us to do roads in a systematic way, you're not going to be happy till we get to your neighborhood. But again, that seems to be a broad stroke for the city. And the other area, of course, was parks improvement. So those two are definitely in the plan. They cross all over, but again, when you're trying to deal with the city as a whole, you've got interest depending on where you're located within the city.
Road repaving, infrastructure repair, stormwater management, be it digging out clogged ditches or maintaining the gutter system, are what I hear about the most.
Okay. Mr. Beard, any comments?
He about covered it.
Okay. Mr. Wilson?
The same, I mean, I've been saying as far as.
So we would at least know an area to concentrate on, should we move forward and have a surplus of funding at some point. And again, if the referendum doesn't pass, that means we're going into the next fiscal year potentially with another additional deficit to make up unless something comes in that makes a huge difference. In the
Well,
meantime.
The roads, the last time we did major improvements, or was a couple of years ago, we used 9/11 funds. I'm sorry, not, gas tax
Gas
funds.
tax.
And there was, I think, $375,000, and we split it between each district. But they haven't done anything since that I'm aware of.
And again, just for a general
I'd like
comment.
to know how much we've got in the gas tax fund. I haven't received a report in quite a while.
In the previous administration, they did agree and got the city engineer to start developing a systematic plan that assessed all the roads within the city limits and looked at the worst roads as the priority. And so it no longer is at my discretion or some member of the council's discretion which road gets paved. We take them in systematic approach based on condition. So if the funding is available, that's the way it will be approached throughout the city. And there are some areas, and then we have some areas like in certain neighborhoods that have other issues on top of that that they've got to overcome before we can even pave in those areas. But paving is a big issue if it should come up.
Hank, does he have any idea offhand how much we got in the, gas tax?
About $550,000.
550.
Now, what are our uses for gas tax other than infrastructure like that?
Basically, it's for, well, you have two of them. You have the gas tax 4 and 5, you have gas tax 7. 4 and 5, both of them are good for repairing, rehabilitating, renovating, or restoring roads. They also have some other uses that are tied to road repairs that you could use them for. Say, for instance, if you had to repair a road and it had a bad storm drain up under it, you could go ahead and repair the storm drain while you were repairing the road. So it has several different uses, but the main uses would be for the rehabilitation of the roads.
And remembering with that 35,000, I don't believe we got very far, if I remember correctly. It did some areas.
It did some areas, only certain spots in different districts.
It probably paid, what, a half a mile or 3/4 of a mile per 75,000 each district had, so it didn't do a whole lot.
And we've got some roads that were partially paved and that weren't completed that we've got to go back and address at some point, so.
The last time I talked to Matt at Sane, he
Uh-huh.
said that he was getting very close to finishing that pavement management study. And as soon as he completed that and had an opportunity to meet with the mayor, that he wanted to come and give the council a presentation on the condition of the city roads.
So the purpose for the discussion tonight was to look at potential uses if we did indeed get the referendum passed and we added the 6 mil property tax. Again, emphasizing it would be the first increase in over 20 years to property taxes in Irondale. But, so again, that's a big piece of keeping us whole to some extent at this time, but at the same time, it would help us with some infrastructure in the long run. And again, remembering, we're short-term. We've got a little over 2 years left in office, so a lot of this will be picked up by the next council and carried into the future. Mayor, any additional comments on your part, sir?
No, sir.
Thank you. So any additional discussion that any of you would like to bring up tonight in regards to how we will basically, I guess, quote, market the referendum?
Well, going back to the gas tax real quick and road repaving, I'm assuming we're gonna have to wait for Sane to give us an idea of what we need to repair, and then we'll pull from gas tax where we can. So, I mean, the repairs on the roads might not even need to come out of anything. We can start on that now, technically, if we wanted to.
Yes, they got it broken down into either repaving, restoring, or what they call is just, like say for some roads, for our current roads that are brand new, there's something that you can do to those roads in the first 5 years that prolong that. So they had identified that's a part of some of the roads that need that, we get that. Then we have, like I said, roads that need to be rehabilitated, which means you need to go in, tear them out and all of that. So they're putting everything on a schedule so that you can see the comprehensive picture of the city of all of the roads. And then it will be left up to you all to decide how you want to move forward.
Now, was this particular plan, was it broken up into districts? Because I know he's doing a citywide plan, but he came to the council last time, and of course, with the money that was in the gas tax fund, it was distributed among each district. Is that how he did it this time?
They're doing a comprehensive look at the whole city. So they're taking all the roads in the city, period. And then once they identified all the roads in the city, we asked them if they would go ahead and then still break the roads out by district, so each councilor can still get a chance to see what roads fall in their district and what is the state of the roads in their district. So we'll have a comprehensive plan that shows everything, but within that comprehensive plan, it's still broken out by council district to show you the roads that's in your district and what are the condition of those roads.
Last time he brought, breakdown by district of what roads they thought were most needed. And then, I know I rode with him, and we looked at the roads, in my district and, made some adjustments. And I showed him some roads that he hadn't taken into considerations, and I believe some other council members did too. So it wasn't just something they threw out to us. We actually rode with him and looked over the roads they recommended and then made suggestions of our own, and took him and showed him our suggestions. So that wasn't just what they did. It was a unified effort between the council and the city engineer.
Well, what I said is that, first of all, they're just cataloging the roads. They're gonna catalog the roads, and then they're gonna bring a report to you once they catalog. So it's nothing etched in stone because they're cataloging the roads. They're gonna bring them, and then make the report, and based on the information that you all hear in the report, you'll decide how you want to
I
report.
was just, giving the new council members, what we did before, so they'd have a background knowledge on that.
And again, remembering we'll have to do a good job of education in any process we do with road improvement because of the fact that we have county roads within our area and we weave in and out. Overton being a prime example. There are some areas in Overton which we can't touch, and yet they're right next to some that we can touch. So
Yeah.
it's not an easy thing to do when you're paving roads within our city limits.
And that road is as bad as any of them in the city, I think.
So if we move away from roads, okay, we know we're gonna fund road improvement with the gas
Gas
tax.
tax.
We can probably do a significant amount of good with the money that's in the gas tax. So we can kind of, as far as what we might potentially be voting on, as far as from a tax increase, we can probably kind of move roads aside. Am I
Okay.
kind of hearing this correctly?
That
That's what-
seems.
Okay, gotcha. So now we can focus on other types of things, so.
Gas tax is the only thing, roads are the only thing we can use the gas tax.
No, I understand that, I'm just kind of trying to move
Mhm.
forward a little bit as far as other things that we will be able to do, since, roads was something I know I mentioned. That's obviously a separate issue now because of what we can use the gas tax. So what else do we use this for?
Of course, the two things that keep coming up in any group discussion, and if you look at the overall task force handbook, signage is another big issue within the city limits,
Yeah.
and that can make a difference.
Mm-hmm,
And you still got the park issues,
mm-hmm,
but again, parks appeal to some, but don't appeal to all, so that's again, we're trying to look at the best overall use that would make it worthwhile for people to actually come out, vote, and have their say of either yes, do it, no, don't do it.
I would still put stormwater management pretty high.
Because of what we
Concern
intended,
list.
correct.
Mhm.
And what he's referring to, Jefferson County is taking over and a mandate. Stormwater control is going to be a big issue for all cities within the county, not just us. And it's being enforced more than it has in the past. So there are a lot of things we may have to do related to that in the future. So that was not something that was planned, something that came up within the past 3 months.
Thank you.
So for the purpose of this discussion tonight, we basically will move forward with trying to vote at the next meeting. That's the only thing on the agenda currently at our Tuesday night meeting. So we will try to vote forward on that and then hopefully get the referendum at least to the people so they can make a choice.
I'm gonna make a comment. As far as the task force handbook, the Irondale on the Move plan, this is really a platform. This is a kind of like a playbook for the city. We definitely need to take a hard look at this. We did talk about some of the things that was in there, stormwater management, our parks, but this is actually a playbook for the city. Irondale on the Move plan.
Well, it was promoted very heavily by the group that helped us develop it as a guideline.
Yeah.
And again, that's where, as a council,
So
we will have to make those decisions
Really
and prioritize.
Yeah.
They do have some time frames associated with each recommendation, but they're not specific that you'll do this between June and July. They're saying basically take 1 to 5 years, take 3 to 4 years, that type of thing, so.
I think it all depends on how we approach
Okay.
the project.
But again, do you feel comfortable with, for example, sitting down with the mayor and coming up with a campaign that we can get out and start advertising our referendum coming up? And once we set a date, now, we still got to set a date, so nothing happens till we set that date on Tuesday if we do. Is that an issue? And we can work that with the finance committee involved, however y'all want to work.
So let me go back just a little bit. So as a council, did we, I know we talked about certain things, so we all agree as far as parks, stormwater management, some of the other things that's included in this Irondale movie plan, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay, I just
I
wanted
think,
to make sure.
stormwater management will soak up a
Be-
lot of funding, just because
Based on what we heard.
we have a lot of old infrastructure and stuff like that. There's a lot of hard labor that's gonna have to be employed. But yes, parks, absolutely, I'm right there with you, Bobby Joe. I think that's obviously kind of something that's been in our face, a lot lately.
And that was the main purpose of our meeting tonight. However, Mayor, if you don't mind, you did have some figures back from Frank on our issue when we've been talking back and forth on the dog park. Could we go ahead and just put those on the floor, just so people can hear what we're talking about? Knowing the circumstances, things may not change a lot over the next several months.
Sure. We have some rough estimates, for Ellard Park to make that a permanent dog park, and this is not a luxury dog park, but a functional dog park, comparable or better to what we currently have been using. It will take somewhere in the neighborhood between $26,000 and $34,000. That's with us doing most of the work, with the exception of installing the fencing. Beacon Park, which is considerably smaller, we estimated that would take approximately $10,000. So those are the numbers that we have.
With Beacon, were y'all looking at just the cleared out portion, or y'all looking going, kind of moving up towards more of the lines that are up in the woods?
It's basically the area
Clear
where the tennis
park.
courts were.
Okay, thank you.
And
And let me just give you a heads up on that, before we go any further as far as Beacon. I'm gonna tell you now, you'll probably have the whole Holiday Gardens neighborhood sitting outside here. I'm just gonna give you a heads up. I mean, it's gonna be packed.
All I wanted was the numbers, and that's what, yeah.
Well, and I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And all that is purpose of discussion tonight, because it's still out there.
Right.
But knowing the funding issue right now,
We were asked to get you numbers for city-owned parks, not
Right.
neighborhood-owned parks, but city-owned parks.
Yeah.
Ellard and Beacon, and that's what we gave you.
Yeah, and I do understand it's not a neighborhood park.
Right.
I do understand.
and there's gonna be a lot of work between now and the actual execution of any changes. Okay, any other discussion on any other topics before we move on? We can take some public comments if y'all are amenable to that, if it could serve any purpose tonight. But other than that, is there anything outstanding? We definitely have set us a time for a finance committee. You wanted at some point to get back on the parking ordinance, so you need to start thinking about when you'd like to get together on that, about the yard parking.
Yeah, we've been in conversation.
Okay.
About
So
that.
eventually that will need to be brought up, possibly if we have another ordinance meeting at some point in the next 2 to 3 months.
At the risk of bringing up another issue, may I
Please.
inform you all of a situation? I think all of you know that over the Thanksgiving holiday and the Christmas holiday, we put out some dumpsters and some recycle trailers or options over those holiday periods. I want to say, first of all, that garbage pickup, the regular scheduled garbage pickup, was not interrupted on either of those holidays, neither the Thanksgiving holiday, Christmas holiday, or the New Year's holiday. The only thing that was disrupted in this last holiday was the recycle pickup, because Christmas and New Year's fell on Monday. But we had our staff come in and work. They volunteered to come in and work on a day that was their regularly scheduled holiday off, so that we did not disrupt trash pickup. I just want to make you aware of that. In both times, both the Thanksgiving holiday and the Christmas holiday time, those options were abused by folks. The dumpster was overflowing and trash piled around it in both of those dates to where you could not even see the dumpster. In both cases, our staff went and cleaned up the mess, and then the dumpsters were hauled off once they could be gotten to. What happened differently over the Christmas holiday time, between Christmas and New Year's, is after we went and cleaned up the mess, the staff went and cleaned it up, hauled off the dumpsters, hauled off the recycle trailer. People continued, there were a few people, not a lot, but a few people who continued to come up there and dump on the senior center parking lot. We identified 14 different folks that did that, and we issued summons for them, and they have a date to come and talk to the judge about that. I just want you to be aware of that. It was not, even though this was a location located close to Holiday Gardens, it was not isolated to Holiday Gardens. We had some people out of Holiday Gardens that dumped trash there, but we also had people from across the city, including some of your neighborhoods, that brought trash up there and dropped it off. It's unacceptable. It's not, I don't think, what any of us or the residents in general want. But I want to make you all aware that that's what happened. If you get calls about, or hear things out publicly about, was summons, there were summons after the time that we said that the dumpsters would be there, after we cleaned up the dumpsters and all the trash that was thrown on the ground. Over the New Year's weekend, people continued to come with no dumpster there, no trailer there, and dump their trash, their garbage, on the parking lot. It's not a good representative of the city. It's not a good reflection on the senior center or anyone else. And so that's why. It's not to be punitive, it's not to be difficult, but we need to have better respect for our city and for our property than to throw trash out.
Thank you very much on that. That court date's coming up, not this wasn't today, it'll be next Thursday. So that'll,
Can I ask a quick question?
please.
Out of curiosity, any of the people that you identified, were any of them from outside the city limits?
Yes, we had at least a couple that were outside. I think we had two that, well, let me back up. In that location, we had one that was identified with a Hoover address. And in a different location, we had another one that was identified with a Hoover address. We have not yet dealt with that one. We're getting ready to issue that summons. We're committed to cleaning up the city and keeping it clean and keeping it nice. We need everyone's help to do that. All you have to do is go just barely outside the city limits of Irondale and see what it looks like on the sides of the roads when that's not done. And I'm talking about, that's not more than a half a mile from here. Ride down Rucker Road, you could not have the signs for City of Irondale or Birmingham, and you can tell where City of Irondale stops, Birmingham starts, City of Irondale starts again, Birmingham starts. You can do it by just looking at the trash on the side of the road. We pride ourselves in keeping the city clean. Again, we need everyone's help, including the residents, in order to make that possible, but we will continue to be diligent in that effort.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Good update. Any other comments from the council related to why we had the work session tonight? I think we pretty well resolved that issue. Since we're a little bit early, we normally will give some time if anybody in the audience had any comments they'd like to make related to the referendum, since that's the topic of tonight's work session. Please.
Bob Saunders, 1832 Avenue South. Two questions, and this is sort of with the referendum. You talked about roads. once you get the study, has the council talked about before you pave a road, to check and make sure that the water lines are intact and in good condition, rather than pave the road and go back 2 months later and start digging holes to repair leaks?
I would think that any repaving, hopefully we would cross-reference, since we now have a good understanding of where all our utilities are, thanks for the comprehensive plan mapping that was done, we would definitely cross-reference that, absolutely, good question, thank you, Bob.
And Bob, in that case too, that would fall, the council would be approving the funding, streets and sanitation would be the forefront of that, and they've been very good about following up on just that type issue, because they're the ones that normally wind up getting the call.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Yes, ma'am.
The only thing I wanted to say about the roads being repaved, because of what happened today, we will be losing some tax, gas tax, because the gas part of that will be closing also.
Correct.
So that's just something to remember, to
Thank
think
you.
about.
Understood.
Appreciate that. You've been beat, Mr. Shaw, if you'll call him back.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I did keep my garbage in my garage and throw it away. But if there is some monies in there, I still would like to maintain the 2-day. I've been here 37 years and I've gotten really comfortable with that 2-day. And if, you know, we can get that so that I don't have to stockpile the garbage in my house, especially when it gets warm, I would love to get those 2 days back. If they're not saving a lot of money. Now, if they're saving a whole bunch of money, then I might have to find something. But I would like to know how much money and what benefit have we gained from taking away that 1 day.
And I'll go back to my original statement. Please, if you're going to make a comment, would you limit it to the referendum issue, which is what we were here to discuss tonight?
And this is
But
about
thank
the
you for your comments.
referendum too, because
Please.
if we have already taken away 1 day and we're still paying the same amount, so that's kind of like a tax in a way. So if there's a way to include that in, when I have my property tax increase, I have an addition, that same day back for my garbage, I would love to have that included.
But remember, the biggest part of our garbage is the taking to the sanitary landfill,
Yeah.
and that volume has not changed. That's still the same, whether you pick up 1 day a week or 5 days a week.
Right, but I'm just talking for the
Please.
convenience of the
Can I comment
residents.
to that?
I'm just talking about for the convenience of the residents, some of the residents,
Please.
yes.
When we discussed the changing it from 2 days to 1 day, Frank said that it saved us between $100,000 and $132,000 a year, because we had to hire part-time help during the summer to make up the difference. The grass cutting, the litter on the roads and so forth, and had to hire part-time help to do that. And by going to 1 day a week, then that eliminated the need to hire that part-time help in the summer. And so that is the savings, between $100,000 and $132,000. The lowest that we paid in the last few years for that part-time help was $100,000. I think he said $102,000, and the most was around $30,000 to $32,000. So it is saving the city money.
Well, can we take that amount that is saving and include that in the referendum? So that it's included in that total, so that we can
Well,
still have our
that's the
garbage?
money that we pay the bills with. It has no reflection on the referendum.
Well, I mean,
that's
you're
money-
talking about what should be included in the referendum.
Well,
You
if
said
we,
consider that. Because there will be additional money you're getting from the citizens, and we didn't get any money
It's
back
not-
for cutting it, can we get?
it's not getting additional
Terry,
money in, it's
Okay.
additional, it's less money going
Councilor
out.
Beard, I think this is something for another discussion.
Yeah,
This
we'll
is not
talk
the
about
focus
it, but
tonight.
include that,
Thank you.
and consider that in the referendum.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Mr. Schoen, did you still have a comment?
I'm trying to understand.
If you've got something related to the referendum. Thank you.
I came in a little late, John Schoen, 3048 Rock Ridge Road. The referendum you're talking about is a tax referendum, right?
Correct, sir.
And you're discussing how you're going to spend those monies, right?
potential
Because we're
earmarking for
talking
those
about a whole
funds.
bunch of other stuff here that have, I don't think has anything to do with the referendum, so I'm gonna sit down, because what I have to say doesn't involve referendum.
Thank you, appreciate it. Mr. Ray?
Ross Graham, 5632 Hayden Hill. Not only is it gonna affect the residents, a lot of businesses gonna impact with this. We as citizens are gonna get a benefit of people not living in Irondale paying more tax in Irondale that we're gonna get the benefit from. And it's gonna cost me some money, but I think I'm for the referendum. I think that we need it. Our property taxes are lower than a lot of other communities around us. And if we're gonna keep up the type of city that we want, we've got to come up with some way to pay for it. But this, it's not just the homeowners. When you take about, when you take all the businesses we got, you got Southern Railway, you got some big businesses, I own a few of them, but it's gonna impact me, but I'm willing to do that because of the city. I think that we, to survive and keep the standard that we want, and we want our children and grandchildren to have, we're gonna have to do something.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I think this is a lower impact way to do it than any other way I've heard.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, with that comment, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank y'all very much for coming. Thank y'all for being here tonight.